Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey, and as always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How you doing today on this beautiful, absolutely beautiful, stunning Monday evening? How you doing today?
I'm doing great.
That's always
Looking
good.
forward to the show.
Yeah, we got NBA Finals Game 2 that came down pretty much to the wire last night. We had an opportunity to go to overtime, but Jamal Murray couldn't get it done. Almost hit a late three at the buzzer, two tied up, move it to overtime. However, let's jump into the topic because the Heat actually were able to win Game 2, the first home loss that the Nuggets have had all playoff long. And it was at the hands of a Gabe Vincent 23-point performance. Three of the Heat starters all in 20 points. Jimmy Butler, Bam, and Gabe Vincent. While Nikola Jokic had 41 points. Now, the Nuggets are 0-3 now when Nikola Jokic scores 40 or more. This was in a 41-point double-double for Nikola Jokic. Not quite a triple-double. So I just want to know, what was your reaction to the Heat being able to tie up the series, take one at home away from Denver? What's your reaction to that?
Very impressive. That was impressive. They figured it out. I mean, they figured, Jokic will get his points, but if we can stop the other guys, then we're going to win. And that's been the, as you said, the formula for other teams beating Denver, right, is to let Jokic have his points, but deny the others. And when Jokic scores more than 40 points, they lose every game. So I think they're going to stick with that formula. And that may, who knows, we'll see what happens. I think for Miami, after they lost the first game pretty badly, to come back like this is pretty impressive, particularly the undrafted players, right, who really came through last night. You look at Gabe Vincent, he had a great game, right? Struch, right? He had a pretty good game. Even Caleb Martin had a few points. So, yeah, I think and Jimmy Butler really didn't have a great game, but he was big on the assists. So, I think, and Bam Adebayo, very good, very solid game, right? That guy's tough, right? He got pounded around there, and he hung in there. I mean, he's a lot smaller than Jokic. So I was very impressed with Miami.
Yeah. I will say this, Jimmy Butler is very, very fortunate that once again, one of his teammates could pick up where he left off. I'll say it again. We haven't seen one of those phenomenal performances where Jimmy Butler takes over a game. Yes, he did have 21 points, and yes, he did have 9 assists, but he wasn't even the best player on the court. Hell, he wasn't even in the top 3 of the best players on the court. Me, personally, that's Jokic, that's Gabe Vincent, and that's Bam. And then you would have Jimmy Butler. So Jimmy Butler isn't even a top 3 player on the court right now, or at least in this past game. Gabe Vincent was crucial against the Celtics. He had his career high in points at 29. What was it, in Game 3 or Game 2 against the Celtics, which was huge for them. And I said in Game 6, I believe it was Game 6, if Gabe Vincent plays, I give them a 45% chance to win. It came down to a 0.2 second shot by Derek White to push them to a Game 7. They almost won, and Gabe Vincent played pretty well in that game as well. But I'm not going to give an MVP award because you can't really give MVPs out right now. The biggest moment of this game in the fourth quarter, besides, first of all, the Heat went on a 26-8 run in the fourth quarter, which was huge. They went into the fourth quarter down by 8. You go on this big run, you end up winning by 3, but you beat the Nuggets 36-25 in the fourth quarter alone. Duncan Robinson hit shots when he needed to. I believe he scored 10 points in the fourth quarter, and those 10 points were very, very crucial in this game.
3 threes.
It was incredible to see what Duncan Robinson could do late in the game.
Did he have 2 threes and he got a layup there?
I don't have the fourth quarter
layup
number in front of me, but he did make 2 out of 3 threes. He took 3 shots, at least 2. He took 3 threes. Jamal Murray, I want to say this. Michael Porter Jr., I have a lot of faith in him. I believe he's like a 17-5 average guy. But this encapsulated really what the Nuggets were going for. This image right here. Michael Porter Jr. decides to take a shot when there are 3 Nuggets right in front of him that are wide open, and one other Nugget on the wing wide open. I believe that's KCP on the wing. Yeah, it is. Wide open at the 3. And he decides to take a shot. This image right here encapsulates what the hell was happening. The Nuggets went down early, and they went on this big run early, but they can never solidify a lead and push them past the Heat, and that's because, honestly, of really good coaching. And when it's only Jokic hitting shots and Jamal Murray isn't hitting his shots, Michael Porter Jr. can't hit the broadside of a barn from 3, apparently. Aaron Gordon, he made a couple shots. I think he should have shot more. He scored 12 points. Jokic had 28 shot attempts. 28 shot attempts. We just saw him shoot 3 in the first half, and they're up by 17. He shoots 28 shots in this game, and they lose by 3. I think it's demoralizing when the only guy that could score, and this is because the Nuggets don't have superstars in their team. It's Jokic, and Jamal Murray is a very good number 2 at this. Is that if Jokic is the only one scoring and no one else could hit a lick, the morale and the energy just gets stripped from them, and then you're not ready on defense. The effort isn't there on either side of the ball. You don't want to run after loose balls that much because what's in it? You can't hit a shot. If it's not Jokic, it's nobody else. So the energy just wasn't there. And Mike Malone even said after the game, he went right to his team. He ripped his team about the effort that they were putting in, and I completely agree with that. I mean,
he made some mistakes too. He should have taken a couple of timeouts there right at the end.
We'll talk about that later in the show, and we're going to talk. I think that's going to be an interesting topic. What side you take from that? I'm sticking to my guns with my opinion on that. However, I will give the Heat credit. They went into Denver, and they took care of business. They led early, then they went down actually, but in the fourth quarter, entering the fourth quarter down by 8, it was the role players who made the clutch shots. It was Duncan Robinson and Gabe Vincent and everyone. And honestly, Jimmy Butler, yeah, he's really, really good. But he's not this mythical Jimmy Butler that people are saying. He isn't this mythical, is he Jordan's son? Who knows? He's not this type of character that we saw in the first series. And honestly, I don't think if we'll see that Jimmy Butler again. In order to win this series, we may need to see Jimmy Butler take over a game.
I think so.
But we haven't seen this mythical entity that we saw against the Bucks, where he drops 50 plus, and then he goes out the very next game and scores like 40 something. We haven't seen that Jimmy Butler since game 4 and 5 against the Bucks. We didn't see it against the Knicks. It was just Gabe Vincent and everyone else just doing their job. Caleb Martin hitting threes in that series. Against the Celtics, it was Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, and Max Strus destroying the Celtics. We haven't seen Jimmy Butler take over a game. So yeah, this was great, but Jimmy Butler wasn't even a top 3 player on his team. Is he still a really good player? Yeah, he's a good player. But he's not this, guy who just take over and just dominate a game. We haven't seen it in a while. We haven't seen it in about a month, over a month by now. So, while this is great, I think the Nuggets are going to come back in game 3 on, I believe it's on Wednesday. And I think they're going to get back into rhythm. I don't see the Heat going in and beating this team. I think Mike Malone's going to drill into them in practice and in pregame, and they're going to be really, really good and come out with a new fiery passion for Game 3. And I just think, honestly, this is the way that the Nuggets just portray themselves in this game. It wasn't good. It really, really wasn't that good. And will Jimmy Butler explode? Everyone's talking about, we got to see this Jimmy Butler game. Oh, I haven't seen it. Have you? Have you seen Jimmy Butler take over a game and say, this is mine? Because I haven't.
I don't think he tries to do that, though. Really. I don't think that's his mode. I think he's more a distributor. And he had 9 assists last night and 21 points. That's a pretty good stat line.
Oh, it is a pretty good. I agree.
So generally, usually has more rebounds. He only had 4 last night. But I think that in the games where he's scored 50 points, right, he hasn't had that many assists. Right, so I think he prefers himself in a role where he's distributing the ball.
Right,
and he was pretty effective at that last night. Look at the balanced scoring, very balanced scoring, right?
Yeah,
and I don't know what's happened to Caleb Martin. Right, I
think he was dealing with an illness going. Like they put Kevin Love in because I think Caleb Martin was dealing with an illness, and honestly, that was huge. I mean, Kevin Love in the starting lineup, he has the most rebounds on the team, second most in the entire game. I mean, that's huge, grabbing boards.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is that the Nuggets beat them in almost every facet of the game. They besides
Right.
shooting 3% and free throw percentage, but
Assists, they didn't beat them.
rebounds they out rebounded them.
They were 5 behind in assists.
Points in the paint, they dominated 48-34. Second chance points 15-11. Fast break points, they just absolutely crushed them 18-5.
They got beat on the 3-pointers, man. They had Heat had 6 more 3-pointers than they did and shot almost 50% from 3.
Yeah,
That was big.
absolutely. And that's the thing. The Heat aren't a great 3-point shooting team this year. They're 27th.
Yeah, well, they found the stroke last night. They were doing very well, right? 17 of 35,
Yeah.
50% almost.
Well, it helps when you don't have two guys combined for, 1 of 11, like they did in game 1.
Yeah.
That helps you a little bit. But, I mean, this team right now, throughout the playoffs, is doing something so uncharacteristic of what they've done throughout the regular season. They were 27th in the league in 3-point shooting percentage. They were dead last in scoring. And yet they're coming out here and just taking over games as a team. And I think that's just because Eric Spoelstra is probably the best coach in the league right now. Pop hasn't had the success that he once had with Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Kawhi Leonard, and Manu Ginobili.
The Admiral.
Yeah, I mean, so right now, I think Eric Spoelstra right now is probably the best coach in the NBA.
Yeah, I think
and
you're
he
right.
is willing these players to win, take over these games. The role players are coming in.
They never give up.
Yeah.
They never give up.
At one point, they were down by 15. That was the biggest lead the Nuggets had. And they went up early. And then the Nuggets started to come back. I think they led by as much as like 10 after they were down. They called timeout. Eric Spoelstra regathers his team. Puts them right out there. They go up again. Then they fall back. And late in the game,
I mean, they
end of the fourth
outscored
quarter,
the Nuggets
down
in
by
the
8.
fourth quarter by 11 points.
Yeah. And that's going into the fourth quarter being
Yeah.
down by 8.
But going down by 8. Yeah, they won by 3.
So he
very
wills his team.
resilient. Very
Absolutely.
resilient.
I mean, that's the great thing about coaching. And that's really what playoffs come down to. It's, your guys are there for a reason. The teams are in the playoffs for a reason. You are the best of the best in your league at the current time. And right now, the NBA Finals are what teams have played the best up until that point. And the Heat have willed their way through the Eastern Conference, have wanted it more than every team they've played in the playoffs. The Nuggets have just dominated each team that they've played.
I don't think a number 8 seed has ever won the championship.
I don't think so either. This
will be a first, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, no, I think off the top of my head, I can't think of an 8 seed that won the NBA Finals. But, these teams deserve to be here, and that's based on coaching. And honestly, I truly believe this. The finals, I don't think, are about, at least this final series, won't be about the stars. It won't be about Jokic. It won't be about Jimmy Butler. It'll be about who else will come up and step up. And right now, we saw it in this game. Gabe Vincent and Bam Adebayo, who's, I guess, a star, but he's relatively inconsistent. Gabe Vincent, 23 points, led his team. And Max Strus has had his big game. Caleb Martin won Game 7 for the Celtics. Or, I guess, for the Heat against the Celtics. Duncan Robinson in the fourth quarter, 10 points. He was a minus 20, plus minus, going into the fourth quarter. He ended with a minus 6. So it's going to be these role players stepping up and performing. And that's where the Nuggets may be at a disadvantage here, are the Denver Nuggets role players like a Bruce Brown, like a Christian Braun, like a Jeff Green, going to step up and compete. And now, Christian Braun, he didn't have the points, but he probably would be excluded from Mike Malone's, effort rant. Because I feel like he put in a lot of effort in this game, going for loose balls, getting steals. He had 3 steals on the night. So I think this is going to be about role players here. Yes, Jimmy Butler, that's the thing. Jokic and Murray and Butler, they'll get their points. But honestly, teams are going to, the Heat are going to focus on Jokic and Murray. The Nuggets are going to focus on Jimmy Butler and Bam, most likely. So it's going to be who else could step up and help if Jimmy Butler's off, if Nikola Jokic is off, if Jamal Murray's off. Who's going to be that next player to step up and compete and lead their team to a victory? And last night it was the Heat. Gabe Vincent put in the work. Again, Adebayo, 14 shots. He made 8 of them, 21 points. He was a big factor. Max Strus with 14 points, made 4 of 10 from 3. These guys stepping up, and that's why the Heat so far have been successful, and that's why they're in the NBA Finals. Because they just want it more, and their role players have stepped up when they needed to. So, congratulations to the Heat to take over in Game 2. Yeah. Game 3 is Wednesday. We will see in Miami who wins Game 3.
I think it's interesting how the Heat have changed their structure of their teams over the years under Pat Riley, right?
Right.
the last round when the last teams that had big success that made it to the finals and won championships had superstars on them, right? They had Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, and LeBron James on the team, right?
Yeah.
They won 2 championships that way. They went for the big name players, right? They had superstars on their team. This team doesn't have that, right? This team has 3 undrafted players that either start or play big minutes,
right?
And they're getting it done that way. That's really interesting, I think.
Yeah. Let's get into our next topic. Because, lo and behold, we got some news. We could be seeing a brand new Big 3 coming out of the NBA. I think the most recent Big 3 we could really talk about is probably KD, Curry, and Klay Thompson. That was back in 2019, most likely. I guess technically you could say KD, Booker, and Chris Paul. But we didn't see really much of them, and we didn't see the success. But there's a rumor out here, probably from Kyrie Irving's camp, that Kyrie wants the Mavericks to try to trade for LeBron James so he, Luka Doncic, and LeBron James could all team up and form a Big 3 out in Dallas. I want to get your opinion on this. I thought this was a pretty hot topic here. I want to know, would it be a mistake for Dallas to try to trade for LeBron James and also bring back Kyrie, who is a free agent as we speak?
Absolutely.
Why do you think that?
Well, I just think Kyrie Irving is damaged goods. And he played so poorly on Dallas, and he ruined the chemistry of that team that I'd be very surprised if they'd take a bet on his idea for making the team better. I really don't think that's going to happen.
Interesting. I will say this. It wouldn't make sense based on what we saw from the Mavericks when Kyrie got there. The main problem here, while we take a look at face value, LeBron will give you 40 pretty to really good games. He damn near averaged 30 last season, and that's at 38 years old in year 20, which is absolutely incredible. Luka Doncic, he's essentially a scoring machine. He's damn near a walking triple-double, and Kyrie has arguably the greatest handles anyone can see and can score very well. So at face value, this is like, oh my God, here we go. Big 3. Big 3. Here's the main problem. LeBron is a point guard, needs the ball in his hand. Luka Doncic is a playmaker, needs the ball in his hand and can score. Kyrie is a true point guard, he has handles like a magician, and needs to score to be successful. So your 3 guys all need the ball in their hands to be successful.
The chemistry won't be there.
The chemistry between probably LeBron and Kyrie would be okay, although...
Well, they've proven that they can do it before. They won a championship together.
Right, but then Kyrie bailed on LeBron, but then Kyrie Irving also showed up during the Lakers playoff games and sat front row. So their relationship, I'm sure, is fine. The Lakers came out report today. The Lakers won't be interested in trading for Kyrie Irving or acquiring Kyrie Irving for the Lakers. I don't think that's a good idea. The Lakers right now are ascending with the team they have now. I don't necessarily see them regressing after this season. But just the simple fact of your 3 biggest names all need the ball in their hands, that's a problem. I mean, if we look at all the other big 3s, Chris Bosh was an interior player. He could score very well. But then you also had Dwayne Wade. He could be an off-the-ball guy. LeBron, he was an on-ball guy, but his major success was being surrounded by shooters. The Cavs, we saw that big time. Kyrie Irving hitting shots. Kevin Love could knock down a 3. So LeBron is best around shooters, and that's why maybe at face value this is a good idea. Kyrie could score. We know Luka can score. But here's another aspect to that. Besides, everyone has a tremendous amount of usage rate, which that doesn't make any sense. The amount that the Dallas Mavericks would maybe need to give up to get LeBron James. Hell, I had a trade thing here, and I said during it, I think they needed Moses Moody and or Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins, and who was my third guy? Was it Anthony Lamb, I believe? I forget who I put in my third spot. But then you probably would also need to include a first-round pick maybe, or at least some form of pick. So think about what I'm going to bring up the Mavericks roster right here. I mean, think about what the Mavericks need to give up. You can't. I mean, you may need to give up Reggie Bullock, maybe. You need to give up maybe Tim Hardaway Jr. Like, you're going to need to give up a lot of pieces, and this is why it didn't make sense.
I think the Lakers would want more than that to give up LeBron.
No, I understand. Yeah, you wouldn't give up only 2 guys. You give up much more. But you need to give up a lot for LeBron James because I still think he holds a lot of value. Once again, he averaged almost 30 points a game this season.
It's a big draw, too.
A huge draw. And people saying, oh, but his son just committed to USC. LeBron has never seemed committed to one particular city. He went to Cleveland, left Cleveland for Miami, then left Miami back to Cleveland, then went from Cleveland to Los Angeles. So he bounced around the league all the time. However, we have to say this. Everywhere LeBron has gone, he's won an NBA title. And I believe he's the only player he could say that. He's won a championship in 3 different cities. Cleveland, Miami, and Los Angeles.
Yep.
And it's incredible to watch. Do I think Dallas could be the next option? I mean, apparently he's a Cowboys fan. We've seen him wear the Dallas star on his head. He wears the hat. So who knows if he likes Dallas? Do I think he could team up with Kyrie? Yeah, I think he could. And I honestly think the Lakers may take that call. Hey, we want LeBron James. We'll give you X, Y, and Z. Sure. I think you'd be dumb to not take that call. Honestly, I think you'd be dumb not to take it.
They'll probably listen.
No, and I think it's a good idea to listen. But,
I think though, back up a little bit, right?
Okay.
Dallas, big mistake was letting Jalen Brunson go.
Absolutely.
Right? They had a team that made it to the conference finals.
Yep.
Right? And had a great chemistry. They should have just kept that team together. They let it fall apart, and look what's happened.
Yeah.
And they brought in Kyrie Irving, didn't fit with Doncic at all. And when they're both on the court, it just didn't work. So they went from being the number, what was it? Where were they?
They were the number 4 seed.
They were the number 4 seed and dropped all the way out of the playoffs when they
out of the play-in too, which is even worse.
Even out of the play-in. So that's broken. They broke the team unnecessarily. They could have kept Jalen Brunson. They wouldn't have had to pay a fortune for him. And he's turned into a great player. I think, and he was already good before, but he played the right role with Dallas, and it made Doncic even better. So I think that was a big mistake on their part.
No, I agree, and I have it here. I was looking at it while you were saying that.
I think they'll be compounding the mistake by cowing to Kyrie Irving to try to bring LeBron James in. I think that's a mistake. I don't think Doncic would be happy with that.
LeBron,
he's the star of that team.
Here's the crazy thing, right? LeBron, could he draw players to Dallas? I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. Because, first of all, the price that probably Mark Cuban and the Mavericks would need to pay for these players, because the main argument people give is that Luka needs help. And that's why you got him Kyrie. Well, hell, you couldn't play defense before Kyrie got there. You really couldn't play defense after Kyrie got there, because you had to give up your 2 best wing defenders in Finney-Smith and Dinwiddie. So you got rid of your 2 best wing defenders, and then you're left with a point guard who doesn't play defense and needs the ball all the time, taking hands away from Luka Doncic.
You saw the result. They just lost tons of games.
Yeah, no, it was terrible. Their defense went from bad to worse. And now you're going to put it on Kyrie to say, hey, let's bring LeBron in. Why would the Mavericks, after the complete dismantling of that franchise we saw last season, why would the Mavericks listen to Kyrie Irving?
Yeah.
Honestly, why would they? Because they brought him in to help.
The Mavericks made a huge mistake. I mean, even trading Kyrie Irving, they're going to have a hard time getting good value, I think. And maybe they trade him to the Lakers, but the Lakers say they're not interested.
The Lakers are not interested in signing Kyrie Irving. Yeah.
So where is he going to go? I mean, I think the Dallas should get off him. I really do. I think they'd be better off without him.
I don't think they should bring him back. I don't think it's a good idea for Dallas to do that. But then again, how many options do you have out there that could work with Luka? That's the big thing. You need defense. That's their big thing. Defense was their big problem this season. And when they got Kyrie, it just was much worse than it was before Kyrie. And he was supposed to be sort of the saving grace. He was supposed to be the help. People were screaming at the Mavericks organization to get Luka some help. He was supposed to be that guy. And it didn't look too hot. Yeah, they won a couple games here and there. Yeah, Kyrie had his moments where he scored high 30s, mid 40s. But in the totality of it, it was an utter failure. You went from the 4 seed to out of the play-in. Now, the last game, you had a little bit of an issue there. You decided to bench all your healthy players, which you got criticized for, and I believe you had to pay a big fine as well. But I don't think the Mavericks should necessarily be off the table. Dallas is a big market. I think LeBron maybe could appreciate having Jason Kidd as his head coach. I'm just spitballing here. You have Kyrie there, maybe. You bring the Mavericks would bring back Kyrie. You have Luka there. It's an intriguing idea, but so was the Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, and LeBron James trio. That was a very intriguing idea. Russell Westbrook, who was averaging a triple-double damn near every year the past 5 years. Anthony Davis, who he already won a championship with. And LeBron James dropping damn near 30 every season. That's a very intriguing idea. And we saw how it turned out.
Well, Russell Westbrook
They won, 33 games together?
Yeah, Russell Westbrook is over the hill.
So I think this would be a bad idea. I don't think they should get it done. I would say, if you want to bring LeBron in, bring LeBron in. I wouldn't bring back Kyrie.
You got to find a way to get rid of Kyrie Irving.
It's
going to be hard to do.
And just the logistics of having all three of them, they all need the ball to really be successful. So it's just going to be, okay, yeah, LeBron, you're going to ISO this time. Okay, Kyrie, your turn. Luka, here we go. There's going to be no team. If we thought there's no team chemistry with just Luka and Kyrie, imagine having three players who need the ball all the time to be successful. There's going to be negative chemistry. They're going to hate each other.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I'm talking about the role players will hate. I mean, yeah, they may win a couple of games here and there, but they're never going to get the ball. They may get a pass, and LeBron or Kyrie or Luka can be like, we'll take the ball back. Yeah, here we go. So I think this would be a bad idea for the Mavericks to go out and hunt for Kyrie Irving.
I think the Mavericks should look to trade Kyrie Irving to one of the teams that had a terrible record and just try to get one of their better players, the up-and-coming player. I think that would be a better option. Maybe get a draft choice, too, because that team was not going to do much. And I don't see any of the elite teams wanting Kyrie Irving.
Right. I think it's going to be interesting, and we'll see what happens during this offseason. Let's take a break, though. Coming up, should the Nuggets have called timeout with 12 seconds remaining in the game before Jamal Murray's three? And a new report says that Aaron Rodgers wanted the Packers GM Brian Gutekunst to be fired back in 2021. We talk about that right after this.
Introducing video podcasts on Spotify.
Transform your storytelling into a show everyone can watch
or listen to.
Easily upload your video through Anchor, Spotify's free podcast creation tool.
So whether you're showing off a new recipe,
interviewing an exclusive guest,
or uncovering the next mystery,
you can now reach a whole new audience with Spotify.
Podcasting just became more than audio.
Create with Anchor, watch on Spotify.
You have a lot to say. Maybe you've thought, I should start a podcast. Meet Anchor, the easiest way to make a podcast ever. It's a powerful mobile app and web tool that lets you record a podcast anywhere and distribute it everywhere. It's great whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out. And it's 100% free. You can record your show straight into Anchor on your phone, iPad, or the web, using any mic you want. Record alone or with friends or co-hosts anywhere in the world. You can add background music and transitions, and your listeners can send you voice messages that you can incorporate right into your next episode. If you want to produce your show using another app, you can upload your own audio directly from web or mobile and still take advantage of Anchor's totally free podcast hosting. Once your podcast is ready to publish, Anchor can automatically distribute it to every major podcast platform. That includes Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, so your listeners can hear your show wherever they want. And on the web, you can see detailed analytics about how people are listening. Plus, you'll get a great-looking profile page where anyone can listen to your podcast or subscribe to it. And if you want to ask your audience to support your work, Anchor makes it easy to collect monthly payments from the people who love your podcast and want to see it grow. You really don't need a recording studio, expensive equipment, or a bunch of technical knowledge to deal with a podcast feed. Just get started and join the diverse community of podcasters already on Anchor. We can't wait to hear your podcast.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey, and as always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic because the Nuggets had a chance to win this game and set up a play, but instead, Mike Malone, with 2 timeouts remaining, decided to not call any timeouts, which forced Jamal Murray and the Nuggets. First of all, Jokic set a screen there. I don't love that screen, but it forced Jamal Murray into a pretty contested three-pointer, which he did not score to send this game potentially to overtime. I want to know, Should Mike Malone have called a timeout with about 12 seconds remaining when they got the rebound to maybe draw up a last-second play to potentially tie the game and put it into overtime?
Absolutely. I don't know why he didn't do that, right? Number one, it would have given him time to regroup and think about what the best move would be at the end of the game there with really one play to go. And also, they would have got the ball at half court. Right, they would have inbounded it right near the basket, so it would have given them a little more time to set up their play. So I don't understand why he didn't call a timeout. In fact, they had 2 timeouts, so they could have set up the play, right? They could have gone out on the court, seen who was covering who, and taken another timeout to even make an adjustment to it. That's a smart thing to do when you're down by 3 with 12 seconds to go.
Right. I'll say this. I'm going to defend Mike Malone here. Originally, I thought you should have called the timeout, but then I thought about it. I like to deep think, analyze the game as much as I possibly can. I've defended Joe Mazzulla before about this topic here. You have a last-second play. For me, my outlook of this is, how well do you trust your players? How much do you really trust your players to go out there and make the right play? The only thing I have a problem with in the play, which I'll show again, is Jokic sets the screen. Jokic is a player who can make some threes. So I don't like how he set the screen. Michael Porter Jr., he wasn't hitting nothing. Have him set the screen. Have maybe Bruce Brown set the screen. Don't have a guy who could actually make threes, maybe off a pick and roll there. Maybe have Jokic on a wing to potentially make the three.
Well, they could have told him that on the timeout.
Maybe. But I feel like Mike Malone should trust his players to make the three. Should trust his players to make the right play at least. The screen is the only thing I have a problem with because Jokic could have been the one Jamal Murray may pass it to for him to potentially hit the shot. Now, Jamal Murray tends to be the one who shoots the threes. So if we're talking about from a predictable standpoint,
a very contested three.
It was a very contested three.
They didn't screen on the right guy. The guy who was guarding Malone, look at Murphy. He's out there all by himself.
Yeah.
It was Jimmy Butler, one of the best defenders.
Right.
So I think the Heat played that one really well.
No, the Heat did play very well. However, I will say this. It's sort of very predictable, regardless of who it is. If you've seen the Nuggets play, and if you see them play in crunch time in late games, it's generally Jamal Murray who takes that game-winning shot, who takes that late second shot. Jokic generally does not take the last second shot. So from a predictability standpoint, yeah, it'll probably be Jamal Murray who takes that shot. So I have no problem with how he shot it, who shot it, because it almost went in. That's the crazy thing.
Yeah, it did. It rimmed out.
And Mike Malone said from his angle, it looked good. It looked like it was going in. So the only problem I have with, the non-call, then the non-timeout call is the screen. Because I think Mike Malone, as he should, trust his players, trust his superstars, Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, to lead this team and hopefully get up a good shot. Now, I defended Joe Mazzulla about this because there was I think it was in the playoffs where it was Jason Tatum dribbling the ball out and they waited. Here's the problem. They waited too long. The play that they ran was a beautiful play because Marcus Smart had an open three that he made. Except he got the ball 0.4 seconds remaining. That's the problem I have. You waited 10 seconds to make up your mind and make a play, but the play was the right one. So that's why I defended him. You trusted your players to make the right play in the time that you have. The only problem was the Celtics had a great play. They just took way too long. In this one, yeah, you have about 12 seconds when you get the rebound and you want to push the ball, hopefully not get the Heat defense into position. That could also be another reason why you don't want to call a timeout. You don't want the Heat to set up their defense maybe, so maybe you can catch them off guard if you're hustling up the court.
That didn't happen though.
No, I mean Jimmy
didn't
Butler,
happen. The Heat had that one covered perfectly.
I agree, and it was.
I mean, Jamal Murray took a very long 3-point shot. It was contested by the best defensive player the Heat have.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
So you couldn't ask for a better response on the Heat side. And if Malone was trying to catch him off guard, it didn't happen.
Yeah, so I'm going to defend Mike Malone here because I just think you got to trust your players. And,
let me throw out one
sure,
other
go for
possibility, Nate.
Go for
and this will be interesting for you to analyze. maybe Mike Malone was just so upset with his players for playing such poor defense in the fourth quarter, he didn't call a timeout. He said, it's up to you guys now. You've botched it all the way up to this point. You're on your own.
Interesting. No, I mean, I'm not going to say that's realistic, but that definitely is an interesting point.
Yeah.
Well, then again, you could take that side of it and put that spin on it, but you could also put the spin that I'm putting on it and saying, yeah, you guys, you guys make the plays. I draw them up, but you guys have to execute them. That's the thing as well. Mike Malone could draw up the best play known to man. If you don't execute the play, it goes to waste. Like, for instance, it's not a drawn up play, but was it Duncan Robinson had 2 wide open threes against the Celtics. He missed both of them. Now, if that was a drawn up play to get Duncan Robinson open, well, yeah, you did your job. You got Duncan Robinson open. If, like I'm saying hypothetically, if that was a drawn up play, let's get Duncan Robinson a shot. Yeah, well, let's say, and he was wide open if that was a drawn up play. The play turned out beautiful. It's just he didn't execute.
Yeah.
And that could also be another thing. If
Mike Malone trusts his players, if your point is, I'm trusting my players to make the right play without taking the timeout, right?
Yeah.
Then if I take the timeout and draw up the play, then they should execute that too. Right?
No, I
So
understand.
it makes me wonder why he didn't call the timeout. I don't understand why he didn't take the timeout. Maybe he
It's
was
weird he
just
had
saying,
two
you
of
know
them.
what?
He had
These
two of
guys
them.
they haven't, and he should never do this. I don't think a head coach should ever do this. You never dish your players because they've, at least, there's still time to potentially win the game. To say, you know what, you guys are on your own. You've played poorly this whole fourth quarter and played any defense. I'm not taking the timeout. You figure it out.
Right.
But I don't think I really don't think that was on his mind.
Right.
But it may be. I thought about it. I thought about it.
No,
it made me think about it.
No, it's an interesting thought, and I can understand it because his post game was he could have ripped the refs. He could have said, yeah,
he ripped his own team.
He ripped his own team, saying we didn't put the effort in.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a good thought. I don't think it's realistic in that standpoint. Yeah. But it is definitely a good thought to think about. Maybe, I don't think many coaches do this. Only the terrible coaches that are on their way out may do that. But I just think when you're in that situation,
don't you think though?
You gotta put your players. Your players should know if you're you're in the NBA Finals. You got there somehow. You trust your players enough, especially if you have a guy who's a walking triple-double and a guy who about three years ago put up like 40-point games consecutively against the Jazz in the bubble year. You have guys who can make plays and score, so I think you should trust them, and you're in the NBA Finals to make the play.
But 9 out of 10 times, the coach is going to take a timeout there.
I
think generally every time. Most time in that situation, you expect the timeout, and generally it happens.
And that maybe could be catching Eric Spoelstra and the Heat off guard. I will say this though. Here's another problem I have. I said the only problem I had was the Jokic screening. You had 2 of them, 2, not 1. One timeout, I'm like, you had 1 timeout, big deal. You had 2 of them. You didn't use 1, and that's where I think maybe
Thing is, you could have used
there.
both of them. You could have set up the play, gone out there, looked at the inbounds, seen what the setup was, know what the Heat's defense was going to be, and take another timeout and maybe even adjust the play. I think it was, if he was thinking that he was going to catch the Heat off guard, then he was mistaken because the Heat are too well coached.
Right.
Too well coached, and they rose to the occasion there. They had the right defense set up for that play, and they forced Murray to take a very long 3 contested by the best defensive player the Heat have.
It was difficult to watch because it just looked like they were rushing too much. I think everybody knew Jamal Murray was going to be the one to take that shot.
Well, they knew they had to have a 3.
You needed to have a 3. Driving for a 2 and either hoping for a foul or going to make the 2 and then foul to go in this free throw run again by the Heat. I don't think that would have been a smart idea. Taking the 3 was fine.
Wasn't enough time.
I just think you had an opportunity, maybe if Jokic wasn't the one screening, to maybe kick it out to him if he would be open. Instead, he set the screen, so it was really Jamal Murray or bust. And unfortunately, Jamal Murray cannot make the basket to push to overtime, so the Nuggets could potentially stay undefeated at home. Let's get into our last topic. I think this is interesting. So, Aaron Rodgers reportedly asked for a trade back in 2021. It was him or it was get his GM fired. And this is what Aaron Rodgers had to say on The Athletic about the situation. He said, "Did Brian text me more than I texted him? Yeah, but did I ghost him? No. There was back and forths that we had, and so this is the story you want to go with? You're going to stand on this hill of austerity and say that arguably in the conversation of the best player in your franchise history, I couldn't get a hold of him, and that's why we had to move on? Just tell the truth. You wanted to move on. You didn't like the fact that we didn't communicate all the time. Like, listen, I talk to the people that I like." Woo! Some very, pinpoint words by Aaron Rodgers. I want to know, what's your reaction to Aaron Rodgers'
I don't
comment?
understand his statement. What's he mean by austerity? Put that back up
It's
there.
Aaron
again.
Rodgers. What?
What's he say?
Let's bring that up. You want to see the austerity? Here we
Yeah,
go.
it says, you're going to stand on this hill of austerity and say that arguably in the conversation of the best player in your franchise history?
Austerity, sternness, was it sternness or
Austerity
severity of
means,
manner?
austerity means that you don't want to, it's like a minimalist.
Sternness
You're a
or
minimalist.
severity of manner or attitude. That's the
Oh, yeah?
definition
Yeah.
here. Or there's more extreme plainness and simplicity of style or appearance or conditions
Yeah, right.
characterized by
That's what I'm
severity,
thinking
sternness,
about.
or I don't even know that other word. So, I mean, I want to go first on this if you don't mind.
Go right ahead.
Here's the problem I have with what Aaron Rodgers is saying. He got all mad the fact that the Packers drafted Jordan Love back in 2020. They traded up to get his replacement. And what's funny is that Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre literally have identical careers right now. They both stayed with the Packers for 16, 17, 18 years. Then they go to the same exact team, the New York Jets, for a year. Now we'll see if Rodgers stays there for multiple years. It'd be surreal if he goes to the Vikings, which actually may be set up because Kirk Cousins may be one step out the door. So this might get even more crazy than we already see it. But I will say this. When people compare, the greatest quarterbacks of all time, I always hear Rodgers is better than Brady. Okay, let's compare then. In 2014, when the Patriots drafted Jimmy G, I believe in the second round, Belichick wanted Jimmy G to be Tom Brady's replacement. And in 2017, that was put into play. That Belichick, now this comes out reports, is that Belichick wanted to move off of Brady in 2017 in favor of Jimmy Garoppolo. It wasn't until Robert Kraft said, hold up. No, Tom Brady's our quarterback. Get off of Jimmy G. But let's focus on 2014 when they first drafted him. Did Brady pout and make, ambiguous statements and really keep his mouth shut and say a whole bunch of nothing? No. Did Aaron Rodgers do that by Jordan Love? Yeah, he did. What Tom Brady did was he played really well in the regular season. Then he went to how many Super Bowls and won how many? He won 2014, went to he went to 2016, won that, so that's 2 Super Bowls already. 2017, they made it to the Super Bowl, lost to the Eagles. 2018, they won the Super Bowl again. So instead of talking about the Jimmy G situation and saying a whole bunch of nothing and really seeming passive-aggressive and really focusing on himself, what Tom Brady did was he showed you that he was the better quarterback. He showed you why you should pick him over Jimmy G. What Aaron Rodgers has done is he's passive-aggressive. He's threatened retirement for 3 years. He goes on darkness retreats. He doesn't communicate with his team. And he said, I live in a house with no service, so you got to FaceTime me. Aaron Rodgers, I hate to break it to you, FaceTime also requires service. I hate to break it to you. Now, here's also, you're accountable. If you're not in a place where a team can communicate with you, that's on you. If you were threatening retirement and going into the deep depths of, the forest to go on a darkness retreat and they can't contact you, that ain't on the organization not trying. Like he said, Brian Gutekunst and this team tried contacting you more than you contacted them. You also said that you only talk to people that you like. So that says one thing, you didn't like your own GM, and that's why you wanted him fired. So And then also, if we talk about play on the field, whether you showed them, yeah, you had a pretty good regular season in 2021. Brady did outplay you, though statistically, I hate to break it to you, he should have been MVP. And the funny thing was, he was actually above you in the picks for Offensive Player of the Year, yet you still won MVP. That's also interesting as well. However, in the playoffs, you went back to the normal Aaron Rodgers. And now you're on the Jets, who have already accommodated a bunch of your requests. So, come on, Rodgers. I don't like this. You're going out saying that I only talk to people that I like. You tried to contact and all this. Yeah, you didn't ghost them, but you were really passive aggressive.
Okay,
it's a bunch of nonsense from Aaron Rodgers. But we've heard of this for the past 4 years.
Yeah,
so.
well, that's a very interesting analysis. I like the analogy to Tom Brady, and I think you're right. But I will say that Aaron Rodgers did, after they drafted Jordan Love, right? He won 2 MVPs.
That is true.
Right? He had one season where he threw for 48 touchdowns and had only 5 interceptions and had over 4,000 yards passing. So he had excellent seasons. He just can't keep his mouth shut.
Well, I mean, also in the playoffs, he's a choke artist.
Well,
playoffs, he's a choke
okay,
artist.
but I'm just saying, he had very credibles. He won 2 MVPs after they drafted Jordan Love. So I do think that no matter what he said, his actions on the field showed that, he stepped up, and you drafted Jordan Love. I'll show you. I'm a better player than he is, and he did show that. He did get to the conference championship in 2 of those years, right?
In one of those years,
one of them, and he barely lost.
Lost to Brady, though.
He lost to Brady, but just barely. It was a very close game,
right?
And so, I think that he's got problems in terms of. The way he communicates and the way he says things in public that he should keep behind closed doors. I think that's a problem for Aaron Rodgers, and it probably will be a problem for him with the Jets. We'll have to wait and see.
I think it'll be a bigger problem.
And it's something that Brady was a master of. He never said anything that was to get him into trouble or get the organization into trouble in public. What he said behind closed doors, I don't know. But he kept it behind closed doors if it was a negative thing. And that's something that separates him and Aaron Rodgers by a wide margin.
Oh, big time. I will say this, though. People always hark to that. I always talk about the San Francisco game where Aaron Rodgers didn't show up. Oh, you're playing the San Francisco 49ers, a great defense. Jimmy G got pressured more than you did. If you take a look at the numbers, Aaron Rodgers was actually protected better against that 49ers defense than Jimmy G was against the Packers defense. Aaron Rodgers, MVP year, where he threw 37 touchdowns with only 4 interceptions, almost 69% completion percentage, 4,100 yards. And you lost to Jimmy Garoppolo, who started that game 0 for 7. You didn't come to play.
In that game, they looked good in the first quarter.
The first half, they were pretty good.
In the first half, and then they did nothing in the second half. And that could be...
Take over.
That could be the 49ers coaching, too. They made adjustments at halftime, and their defense played out of this world in the second half, and the Packers just couldn't do anything.
But imagine, though, we take a look at we take a look now. Mahomes, against great defenses... excels in the pocket while being pressured. He has, I think, the best passer rating in NFL history. I think he has a pretty high completion percentage as well. He could perform under pressure against really great defenses in the playoffs. Rodgers, we talk about here. I feel like Rodgers hasn't been great in the playoffs for years. He hasn't made a Super Bowl in 12 years now? And he's supposed to be this all-world player. Now, his ability to throw the football, he could throw off his back foot and he throws it 50 yards. That's something that still blows my mind how that's even possible. How he could just effortlessly just flick his wrist and it goes 65 yards. I don't understand it personally, but there's this whole thing about how he couldn't contact his GM and the GM should just FaceTime or whatever. Like, that's just stupid. I'm sorry. And by the way, if you were really that guy, I don't think the Packers would move off of you. Brady moved off of the Patriots. The Patriots didn't move off of Brady. They offered him a contract. They offered him something. But he knew the talent wasn't there. The weapons
They asked him what he
there.
wanted. They asked him what he wanted.
He wanted long-term
And
security. Belichick would not give him long-term. He wanted 1 year. Belichick wanted 1 year deals or 1 or 2 year deals. He did not want this long.
No, but in the
4 year
end, they brought him in and said, "What does it take for us to keep you here?"
And Brady
he said, "I'm leaving."
Yeah, no, he's done. Rodgers, the Packers moved off. Like, they were done with you. And it wasn't your play. I mean, yeah, you were pretty bad this past year.
I think it's the way he dissed. It's a
yeah.
behavior and the way he dissed the team and was not a good teammate.
He was threatening retirement for
that's
3 years.
That's something that I think the Jets have underestimated, and they've kind of looked beyond and maybe to their detriment when this is all over. We'll see.
Think about it. If Rodgers has a bad game and then goes back to his narcissistic media deflection that he normally does, what's going to happen in New York media?
Yeah, that's a good point.
New York ripped Zach Wilson when he got asked the question, did you cost your team the game? And he said no. New York ripped him for that. We talked about it on the show here.
Yeah.
They ripped him for that. If Rodgers, if he has a bad game and he says, he just becomes the normal Aaron Rodgers self, what the hell is WFAN going to say? What are all these other SNY radio? What are they going to say about Aaron Rodgers? Like, what's New York media going to do?
He's going to be in a different fishbowl when he's in New York than he was in Green Bay. It's going to be much tougher for him media-wise.
Green Bay, like in Green Bay, you got really nothing. You got like no major teams. It's the Packers, and I guess in the state of Wisconsin, you also have the Milwaukee Bucks. But outside
you
of
have
that,
the Milwaukee Brewers too.
Yeah, but that's baseball. Baseball's going down. I will say this though: football is the number one sport in America. You have the Green Bay Packers, and that's it. In New York, you have the Giants, you have the Jets, you have major sports teams that have largely been successful. I would say for the most part.
The Jets.
The Jets.
No, I'm not saying the Jets have not been successful.
Hey, they beat the Patriots and made the AFC Championship twice.
They never won a Super Bowl in your lifetime, right? And they
even about 40 years before
almost
my lifetime.
Mine.
No, I'm talking about sports.
I think
in
it was
general, not
12
football.
years old when they won the Super Bowl.
I'm not talking about just football. I'm talking about sports in general. Sports in general. I mean, the Giants made the playoffs back in 2016. They made the playoffs this year.
The Giants are a successful franchise.
The Giants have won 4 Super Bowls, if I'm not mistaken. 2 with Belichick, 2 with Eli Manning, beating Belichick, which is crippling for me and you. But I think, honestly, New York media is going to be rough because guess what? They're hungry. You're a Super Bowl winner. You're a, 4-time MVP. You're, 2 seasons removed from being an MVP.
Yeah, you're almost 40 years old, too.
And
you're almost 40 years old, and you're someone who does not get along well with your teammates or doesn't really care to get along well with your teammates. I think that could be a problem.
I agree. And I think, truthfully.
And I think the media, if they start sensing that or they see that a little bit, they'll be all over New York.
It's going to be like blood in the water. And the media's going to be the sharks. There's going to be like, okay, let's
we're part of the media in New York, and we're all over it right now. And it hasn't even started.
No, absolutely. And that's just because it's Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, he's a polarizing figure in the NFL. He thinks he's smarter than he's a very intelligent person, but he has a narcissistic, I'm smarter than you persona that pisses a lot of people off. Because it's like, okay, yeah, you play the sport, but you also don't know as much as you think you do. Now, he's a very intelligent person, but him coming in and being this narcissist himself, he's like, I won the MVP. I made it to the play. No, it's a we.
Yeah, I was the greatest player in Green Bay's Packers history. That is, I think that rubs people the wrong way in Green Bay when you see Bart Starr, who played for the Green Bay Packers.
Also, Brett Favre as well.
Brett Favre,
he's up there.
But Bart Starr in particular. Well, he won 5 championships for the Packers.
Green Bay was called Title Town.
Yeah.
It's been more than a decade since they won a title. I think they're stripped of that title for a little while now. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see moving forward how the Jets accommodate Aaron Rodgers. They already got him. Randall Cobb, who he's going to be the 7th wide receiver on the depth chart. He may get a snap a game. Where does he fit in? I'm still waiting.
Yeah, you know what? That could be a problem for Rodgers if they don't let him play a little bit, right? And he may not be. He probably is the number 7 receiver on the team. He's down low on the chart there, right?
Yeah.
And Rodgers is going to have his favorites will be Cobb and Lazard. Yeah. And the Jets have those other guys who Wilson, who was a very good
player of the year. He's offensive rookie of the year, Garrett Wilson. So I don't know. It's going to be crazy to see what the Jets do moving forward. You have Nathaniel Hackett there, so Rodgers has some connection with the offense. But Robert Saleh, he's so far we've seen he can coach defense, offense.
We'll see about Robert Saleh, who is still a little bit unproven in my mind, right? And how he deals with dare I say, prima donna and Aaron Rodgers, and when there's a little bit of a problem, what's he going to do? He's just going to look the other way, my guess. He's not going to deal with it.
Yeah,
and that's going to make things worse.
I completely agree.
But none of this has even happened yet. We'll have to wait and see.
Great talking points. The NFL is always interesting, always a hot topic. But I think that will close out this episode of the Harvey Hour. Thank you all for tuning in. Clips will be uploaded throughout the week as normal. Check us out on Spotify and Anchor.fm. You can always check us out. I think I rebranded Spotify for podcasts, but it's the same exact thing. iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, we are there. But my name is Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We are the co-host of the Harvey Hour. I will catch you guys Wednesday at 3 p.m. Catch us Friday at 6:30.